Welcome to this second and the final session of the 15th Adhyaya of Sri Bhagavad Gita. We start with gratitude towards the Lord, with whose grace everything is possible. We pray to this Guru Shishya Parampara through which this knowledge has been preserved, transmitted so as to reach us. I pay my respects to my Guruji, Pujya Guruma, with whose grace I am able to learn, understand the scriptures and share it with you. We start with a prayer. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Srimad Bhagavad Gita is as relevant today as it was more than 5,000 years ago, when it was revealed by none other than Lord Krishna to Arjuna during the Mahabharata war in the Kurukshetra battlefield. The words of Shree Krishna are very powerful and they penetrate the hearts of all of us, essentially because his life was lived with the same principles that he preaches, that he teaches, the same Updesha that he gives to Arjuna and through Arjuna to all of us, the entire mankind. And he reveals the solutions to all our daily problems, and that's why Geeta Ji is also called a complete Granth, because it touches our life in all the day-to-day aspects of our life. It provides us with a completely new understanding, a completely different worldview, which we don't see, even think about, and that is the worldview that Lord Krishna tells us. And this relieves us of all our pain, miseries of day-to-day life, and it makes us eligible to understand our eternal blissful form, our own Swarupa, our real Swarupa, which is full of eternal bliss. It helps us to connect back to our roots and how I can really understand my real self. How can I connect to the Lord? Who is Lord? Where is he present? How can I see him? All these questions can be answered in Geeta Ji. So for that, we have to let Krishna become the charioteer of our life. He has already given us the teaching of Karma Yoga, so we have to do our best karma. And finally, after we do our best, we have to leave it to him to decide what is best for us. And that Sharanagati, that surrender, has to come with the bhakti, and then only we can become eligible for the jnana that Krishna is talking about in Bhagavad Gita. So 15th Adhyaya is called the Purushottama Yoga. Let us see what is the connection between the 12th Adhyaya, where Bhagavan talked about bhakti, devoting to the Lord. 13th Adhyaya talked about the Paramatma Tattva, talked about the Kshetra, and he said Kshetragdam Chapi Mam Vidhi. He spoke how he is the Brahma Swarupa, the Atma Swarupa. The 14th Adhyaya talked about the Twampada, the Jeeva, and how the Jeev can elevate his life from Rajas to Tamas to Sattva Guna, and how this Sattva and all these three gunas bind us, how we can become away from it, we can become Gunatita, and Bhagavan showed the Lakshana of the Gunatita. And finally, in the 15th Adhyaya, Bhagavan is talking about the Purushottama Yoga, which is the Tatpada, Paramatma Tattva, how we can actually attain this ultimate goal of the life of the human mankind. It's a very short, a profound adhyaya of only 20 shlokas, but it's a very well-known adhyaya for memorization, and it covers many subjects. Bhagavan has talked so far about the cosmic tree, Sansara Vriksha, the dispassion, the Vairagya, which is essential Shastra, Asanga Shastrena Dratena Chitva, onward journey of the Jeeva Swarupa, the Ishwar Swarupa, the Tattva and its benefits. So let us summarize the first session of the 15th Adhyaya, where Bhagavan started with Urdhva Mula Mada Shakam Sansara Vriksha, where the Mula, the roots are upwards, they are Urdhva, and that it's none other than Bhagavana, God is the highest goal for all of us in Sansara. And then Bhagavan described the Sansara people, a tree, how Vishaya Pravala, how the Vishaya, the objects bind us, Guna Pravruddha. He talked about the entire Sansara Vriksha, and then he said the Mulanas Anusantatani, they are very well deep-rooted. Maya is the Mula here. And then he talked about how Vairagya, Asanga Shastrena Dradena Chitva, with Vairagya we can we can destroy the Sansara Vruksha and understand our real Atma Swarupa. So the final goal, Bhagavan said, Tatah Padam Tat Parimargitavyam, Paramatma Tattva is our final goal after the Dradena Chitva of the Sansara. And then Bhagavan had showed us the Sadguna Sampati, the moral values, Nirmana Moha, Chitta Sangatosha, Adhyatma Nitya, Vinivrutta Kamaha. What are these moral values which make us eligible for the Atma Gnana? And Bhagavan then talked about the onward journey of the Jeeva, how Sitamba, how the Jeeva moves from one body to the other, Vayu Gandhar Nivashaya, just as the wind takes the smell from one flower to the other. He talks about then the Nirguna Tattva, Tat Bhasayate Suryo na Shashanko na Pavakaha, how this Tattva illuminates the sun, moon and the fire. And then he talked about the Jeeva Swarupa, Mama Eva Anshaha, Jeeva is my part. We also understood how Jeev can be considered my part. We took different examples of Bimba, Pratibimba, the Agni and the Chingari, the waves and the ocean. And then this is how we can understand. And then Bhagavan talked about how Jiva is bound by its own Gnanendriyas and how it can be freed by understanding its Atma Swarupa. So in the 9th shloka, Bhagavan talked about the 5 Gnanendriyas through which we imbibe knowledge and we take it in, and how Mana is the adhisthana of all these, because without Mana, these Gnanendriyas will not be able to imbibe this knowledge from the outer world. And this is how we collect all these knowledge with this 5 Shotrendriya, Chakshurendriya, Sparshendriya, Rasarendriya, Granendriya, and behind which Mana is the Adhisthaya. And this is used for Vishayan Upasevate, for enjoying the sense objects. And this is how, by enjoying this Bhoga of the Sansara, we are all bound to the Sansara. And then the next shloka, Bhagavan talks about the Jiva, how Utram Mantam Stitam Vapi, Bunjanam Va Gunanvitam, Vimudhananu Pashyanti Gnana Chakshushaha, how Jiva can become freed from this bondage. He says, while different, by living in the body or by going away from the body, or by, enjoying the objects, bhoga, or by being in the action by gunas. In all these states, the Jiva must understand that it is a Sakshi, it is the Atma Swarupa, and all these what is happening, all the actions and activities are happening in the Guna, Guneshu Vartantaha. And this is how Jiva, but this is not seen by Vimuda, one who is obsessed with sense pleasures in the objects, cannot see these, but only can be seen by this wise person, the enlightened person who has the wisdom, who has opened his wisdom eyes, the Gnana Chakshushaha. Only with this we can Pashyanti, we can see this reality of the existence which is beyond what is seen, and this is what Bhagavan wants us to understand. So it is almost like an actor who plays different roles, and in these roles he understands that he is this role, but finally he knows that he is not this role, he is a different person. Behind all these roles he is just one person really. So this is what we have to understand when we play different roles in our life. In the 11th shloka, Bhagavan talks about why everyone is not able to see this truth. This truth for the Lord, it looks very simple. He is very clear with this perception, and that's why he describes it with much simplicity. For us, Jiva, it is very difficult to understand, and why we are not able to grasp this. Bhagavan talks about the Adhikaritva. He says, Yatanto yoginaschainam pashyannatmanyavasthitam yatantopyah krutatmano nainam pashyanta chetasaha. So Bhagavan says, Yatantaha yoginaha cha enam, that yogi who perseveres, who yatanta means who does prayatna, who does efforts, who makes a lot of efforts, constantly perseveres and does this sadhana. Atmani avasthitam pashyanti, sees this truth inside his own heart, inside his own Atma. He sees this truth. Bhagavan says, Yatanta api akrutatmanaha. But in spite of trying, Yatanta api, in spite of trying, those who is akrutatmana, whose intellect is not pure, subtle, cultivated, these people are not able to see this truth. And this, so here in Adhyatma, path, the buddhi, the buddhi that is needed is not very, very powerful IQ, high IQ is not needed. That very sharp memory is not needed. What is needed is the Shuddha buddhi, pure buddhi, Sukshma buddhi, which is subtle, which can imbibe this subtle knowledge that Bhagavan is talking about, and which is cultivated, which has a kind of a self-control, indriya sanyam, mana sanyam has happened. So this kind of buddhi is what is needed. And Bhagavan says, acheta saha na enam pashyati. He says the other person who are not able to see this are people who are acheta saha, who are not aware, those who don't use their viveka, vichara shakti, those who are not thoughtful. And these are the people who are unable to perceive this reality. That is what is the vision of the Lord. So yatantaha api, in spite of trying, so what happens? Even if we try, a lot of people are not able to understand because our efforts may be inadequate. The direction of the efforts, where we are going, may not be as good. So what our Acharya tells us is that we spend a lot of our efforts for worldly possessions. We study for so many years, more than 15, 20 years we study, and then we spend so much of our time in our professional work. All throughout the day, we spend about 8-10 hours in our professional life minimum. And so for Adhyatmic understanding, we have to spend time, we have to give a kind of a priority, we have to spend time to understand this. It must become a part of our daily efforts as a disciplined journey in any sadhana that we undertake. It could be japa, dhyana, it could be swadhyaya, it could be Geeta, Adhyayana, it could be seva, puja, it could be bhakti, it could be anything, any sadhana that we feel that it is good for us to connect with the divine. But we have to do this with a disciplined daily effort. And this sadhana has to be done inside us. It has to be antarmukha. We don't have to go out for this. And only if it is done with an intense desire, tivra jignasa, passion to reach to our goal, to know the truth, then only we can pursue on this path, we can persevere, and only then we can understand the reality that Bhagavan is talking about. And we should always be eager to achieve the goal with a lot of awareness where we are going. Either we are digressing from our goal or we are going towards our goal. And this, we have to keep the goal constantly in our vision. Like when we play a Shastriya Sangeet or a classical music, the Tanpura is always, it's always running in the background, and then all the ragas are played on the Tanpura. So Tanpura is like, that goal, that Paramatma Tattva always has been to be in the background when we do all our other worldly activities. And Acharya tells us that daily introspection, antar nirikshan, is a very, very important part. All this sadguna sampatti, all this, our goal, our sadhya, our sadhana, whatever we are doing, whether we are making the best use of our time that is being given to us in this human life, is to be seen on a daily basis. And Bhagavan says, akrutatmana, one whose mind is not cultivated, who is immature, who is a lot of emotional person, does not think too much, does not use his intellect properly, he has a lot of impurities in the mind, shadavikara, and who has a wavering or an unsteady mind. This is a person who cannot understand this truth. So this cultivation of the mind is an important part of sadhana. And Bhagavan says, the acheta saha, one who has lack of awareness, one who does not have that viveka, that power to discriminate what is good, what is not good, what is worth doing, what is not worth doing. And this viveka, if we are lacking, then we are not able to progress on this path. In the next shloka, Bhagavan talks about his reality. He shows his Paramatma Tattva, Chit Swarupa, because he's now coming to the end of the Purushottama Yoga. He wants to show how he as a Purushottama in this Swarupa. He says, Yada Dityagatam Tejo Jagat Bhasayate Khilam Yat Chandramasi Yat Chagnau Tat Tejo Vidhi Mamakam. So Bhagavan is showing here that Yat Aditya Gatam Teja, just as the sun arises and with its light, when it starts spreading its rays, sun rays, it illuminates the entire world. Similarly, the illumination of the moon and Chandramasi and Agnav, Agnihi, that of the fire, because these are the three things that illuminates everything. And Bhagavan says, Tat Tejaha Vidhi Mamakam. He says, know that luminance of the sun, the moon and the fire is with the Mamakam, it is because of me, he says. And we need to understand that the luminance of the sun, moon, fire, everything, all that illuminates everything that we know everywhere in this world is because of this Chit Swarupa of the Paramatma Tattva. The Paramatma Tattva is considered to have the Sat, Chit and the Anand. The Sat is the eternal existence, and the Chit Swarupa is the Bhana Swarupa or the Bhati, or the Chit Swarupa is the one that knows everything, illuminates everything. Everything is known by this Chitta Swarupa. And this is what Bhagavan says here, that is know that everything that illuminates in this universe is all because of me, even the sun, moon, and the fire. Then he continues with showing his vibhutis, because we are not able to see Bhagavan everywhere, and that's why Bhagavan is showing some areas where we can see him, and then finally we can see him everywhere. And that's why he says, Gama Vishyacha Bhutani Dharayamyaham Ojasa Ushnami Chaushadhi Sarvaha Somo Bhutva Rasatmakaha. So Bhagavan is saying, Gam Avishya, by entering this earth, says, I sustained, Dharayami, I sustained all these lives, all these Bhutani, Sarvani Bhutani, he says, by Aham Ojasa, by luminance, and Bhagavan is saying here, he is also known as Dharanidhara, he is the one who sustains this entire world. And Bhagavan says, I enter into the world and then I sustain this entire world, all the lives, all the peoples, all the beings, all the objects, all the things that are there in this world, in this universe. He says, I sustain everything. Pushnami cha aushadhihi sarvaha. He says, I nurture all the plants and the vegetables, all these aushadhis. Somaha bhutva rasatmakama. And as the moon, I provide the test of the ras. It is said that all these plants and vegetables gets its energy from the moon. And that's what our Shastras tell us. And Bhagavan says that all that rasa that happens, or we differently we feel in these plants and different vegetables when we eat them, all these rasa, Bhagavan says, I provide them, it comes from me. So we must know that all the rasas, not just the rasa of the taste, because taste is something that is so dear to all of us. That's why Bhagavan gives an example, but all the rasas of the Jnanendriyas, the Shotra, the Chakshu, what we see, what we listen, what we enjoy, all these rasas that we see, even the Karmendriyas, the dancing, the playing, and all our Karmendriyas, all the rasas are through the Lord. And that's why Bhagavan is called Raseshwara, also called Rasaraja, because he is the Nidhi of all the rasas. So all the rasas come from the Lord. That is what Bhagavan himself is saying. And it is the Nirguna Swarupa of the Bhagavan that we have to understand here. Because when he says, I enter the earth, I nurture the plants, I nurture the vegetables, as moon, I provide them the rasa, I illuminate the sun, moon, and I illuminate the fire. All this we have to understand that this is basically the Nirguna Tattva, the Nirguna Swarupa of the Lord. In the next shloka, Bhagavan says, I am the what you eat and what you digest. He says, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritaha Pranapana Samayuktaha Pachamyannam Chaturvidam. This is a very famous shloka, very commonly said before we take our meals, because Bhagavan says here that I am what you are eating, what you are digesting. He says, Aham Vaishvanara Bhutva. I am the fire of digestion in all the bhutas, all the beings, all the beings. He says, and this fire of digestion is also called Jataragni. Jataragni is that heat, the temperature, the body temperature, the heat, the digestion, which metabolizes, we digest all the ingredients that we eat, breaks it down, and then it metabolizes all this through this heat of the body. And this is called Jataragni, which Bhagavan says, I am this, through which all the digestion of the food happens. Praninam Deha Ashritaha. I reside in the body of all the beings and I am the fire of digestion. That is how he says. He says Prana Apana Samayukta, along with the Prana and the Apana, the respiratory, this thing, he says, with all these energy, the Prana is ultimately an energy. Through this energy, Apana, energy, he says, Pachami Annam Chaturvidam. I digest the 4 types of food. Chaturvidam is 4 different types of food. Annam, Bhagavan says. So let us understand what are these 4 types of food that Bhagavan is talking about. So 4 types of foods are, one is the honey, it's liquid. And food, our Shastras tell us that food has a very big impact on our mind. People who are involved in the spiritual practices, they understand how important it is. Those who are just obsessed with the worldly pleasures, they probably may not realize the importance. But those who do their spiritual practices early in the morning, they will realize that whatever they eat in the night, whether what is the time, what is the quantity, what is the quality, it does affect the morning prayer, it does affect the sleep also, and it does affect our concentration in the morning. So it is very clear from our own direct experience that food has a very great impact on our mind. And that's why we have to be very, very careful and aware of what we eat, how much we eat, what kind of food we eat. Bhagavan is saying here that I'm omnipresent as Anna. I'm everywhere, he says, all the four types of food. I'm the Bhokta, he says, and I'm the Bhogya. I'm the one who eats. I'm also the what you eat also, and I'm the one who digests everything. So in all the Swarupa, Bhagavan says, I am there. In one of the shlokas in the 4th or the 5th Adhyaya, Bhagavan said, Brahmarpanam Brahma Havihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina Annapune Sadapune Shankara Pranavallave Jnana Vairagya Siddhyartham Vikshandehi Cha Parvati. So Bhagavan is telling how, he is in all forms, it is everything is Brahma Swarupa. So in the next shloka, Bhagavan talks about the Vibhuti Darshana. Again, he says that, what can I tell you, Arjuna? You can see me everywhere. I'm residing everywhere. It's a different issue that we can't see the Lord, but he says, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mattah smrutir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarverahameva vidyo vedanta krut veda videva chaham. So Bhagavan continues his Vibhuti Darshana. It says, I am everywhere. Sarvasya cha aham hridi sannivishtaha. He says, I am residing in the hearts of all the beings. Very well. Avishtaha means very well. I am there already. Bhagavan tells me, don't look for me outside. Don't look for me in the temples, in all the different places. I am there inside your heart, Bhagavan says. And he says, Matta, through me, from me, Sprutihi, Gnanam, Apohanam cha. All these that you memorize, all this memory power that you have, the knowledge, the Gnana power, and Apohanam. Apohanam means forgetfulness. When we don't remember something, Bhagavan says, all this is because of me, Mattaha. All this Shakti, all this energy, all this power that you think that I am having a good memory, or I can know, I am having a good knowledge, I have good intellect, whatever that you have, or I forget very frequently names and forms and other things of people. All this, Bhagavan says, is because of me. Vedaihi sarvaihi aham eva vedyaha. He says, I am the only one to be known by the Vedas. Vedanta krut. So I am the one who reveals this knowledge by the Vedanta tradition. Bhagavan says, Vedavit. And I'm the one who is the known. I know this knowledge. Vedavit also, the wise person, the knower of this knowledge. I'm the person who reveals the knowledge. I'm the one who is the knower of this knowledge. So in all Swarupa, Bhagavan says, everything, I am the only one to be known by the Vedas. So let us understand this statement, what Bhagavan says, Aham eva vedyaha Vedanta Vedaischa sarvaihi aham eva vedya. He says, I am the only one to be known by the Vedas. So what does it mean? There can be three different meanings of this, depending on the anvaya of the eva vedya as it is done. So when you say aham eva vedya, it means that I am the only one to be known by the Vedas. So the tatparya, the summary of all the Vedas is the Paramatma Tattva, and that is the knowledge that Vedas give us of the Paramatma Tattva Gnan. So that is the main important target or the goal of the Vedas. Aham Vedaihi eva vedyaha. That means that I can only be known by the Vedas. Vedas is the only pramana. It's the only evidence through which I can be known. You cannot know me without understanding the Vedas. That is what Bhagavan is telling us. And the third way Anvaya can be done is Aham Vedyaha eva. I can only be known. Bhagavan says, you don't have to do anything to know me. You just have to know. I am Gnatavya. I am not Praptavya. I'm not that you have to do something to achieve me. You just have to know me, that I am your Atma Swarupa. And this is what Bhagavan tells us. So Bhagavan, it is that Gnan which is the most important. We may do a lot of karma, a lot of upasana, a lot of bhakti. All this is important to prepare us, to make us eligible. But ultimately Bhagavan says that it is the Gnana that is most important. I can only be known aham vedya eva. You don't need to do much then. And Bhagavan does all these aham, aham, aham. I am here, I am in the earth, I am in the hearts of the beings, I am the illuminator of the sun, moon, fire. All these aham, aham Bhagavan is doing so that the Jeeva does not do ahankara. Jiva does not feel that I am the one who has this power of memory, I am the one who is very intelligent, I am the one who is forgetting, I forget. So all this ahankara of the Jiva, Bhagavan wants us to get us relieved from this ahankara, and that's why Bhagavan is doing aham, because aham of Bhagavana is sarva vyapaka. It is not limited to one object. For us, our aham is limited to this body, mind, our complex, and that's why it is a very limited aham, which is called ahankara. Whereas Bhagavana aham is a shuddha, pure aham, which is sarva vyapaka, everywhere. And that's why it does not smell of arrogance. Our aham always smells of arrogance. In the 16th shloka, Bhagavan now describes the world or this universe into two types. He says Kshara and Akshara. Dvavimau purushau loke Ksharakshakshara evacha Kshara sarvani bhutani Kutastho uchyate. So Bhagavan says, Dvau imau purushau loke. This world has two types of purusha. He says, one is Kshara, which is perishable, constantly changing, destructible, changing type, which is Kshaya, which is constantly changing. And the other is Akshara. Akshara is the imperishable, does not change, remains the same for a long period of time. Bhagavan says, Shara, Sarvani Bhutani, all the beings and this world, the Jagata, the Sthul Jagata, the Sthul Sharira, all the beings are all transient. They are all ephemeral. They all keep changing. They come, they go. But Bhagavan says, Kutastha Akshara Uchyate. Whereas the Maya, Akshara, here Bhagavan means Maya or Jivatma. Does not mean Brahma here. But here Bhagavan means Maya or Jivatma. Both the meanings are there. It is Akshara, which is Kutastha, which is perpetual, which remains for a long period of time. So let us understand what Bhagavan is trying to tell us. Kutastha. First, let us understand the meaning of this word Kutastha. Kuta means that unchanging foundation upon which the blacksmith creates all the different forms by his instruments. So that is that Kuta, that is the unchanging foundation, and above which all the forms are keep changing. And Kutastha is generally word used for Atma as a Sakshi or for Sarvavyapaka Brahma also. But here Bhagavan is using this word for Akshara Purusha. Akshara Purusha means the Maya. Maya is the root cause of the matter for the creation. It is also called Prakriti. It is also called Kshetra. Bhagavan has already described in the 14th Adhyaya how from Prakriti, the Maya, the Jagata, the Sukshma Jagata and the Sthula Jagata is developed. The creation comes into play. And this Maya is here called Akshara because it is not changing. It is the same. The bodies keep changing. The Jivatmas keep moving. But the Maya, Shakti, through which this Ajnana, the Avidya, it always keeps on there. And the other meaning of the word Maya, according to some other acharyas, is called Jivatma. So basically the Jeev also keeps moving his journey from one body to the other, from other to the other. This Sansara Chakra Gati of the Jeeva is called Akshara. Akshara means it keeps happening, it is perpetual. But this can come to an end because Jeeva is not Ananta. Only Brahma is Ananta. Jeeva is Santa. Means it can come to an end when the Jeev realizes that it is nothing but the Brahma. It is the same. There is a Aikya Gnan. Then only this Jeeva is relieved from this Sansara Chakra or this Gati or this constant movement. So Maya, as we understand, cannot be perceived by senses. It cannot be perceived by Indriya because it cannot be seen. We can't see this Maya Shakti of the Lord through which the Lord creates this universe. And that it can only be experienced by its actions, by the Karya through which it manifests. Like say for example, all the different beings, all the different people, they, by their actions we can understand this Maya, but we cannot directly perceive it by our own eyes, ears, or by our own touch or other Jnanendriyas. And Maya is considered to be consisting of three gunas, the Trigunatmika Maya, that's why it is called, we have already seen this. And Shankara says Maya is a power, it is a Shakti which makes impossible things into possible. Something that cannot be done from the Nirgun Nirakar, Brahma, how a Sagun Sakar, entire Jagata, and all these beings come into existence. Something which is impossible can be made possible only with this Maya Shakti. And this Maya Shakti cannot be known completely by all our Jivas. We cannot see this, we cannot know this completely. That's why it is also called Mayavi. It's like a magic. And a lot of magicians, they also call themselves Mayavi. And therefore Maya is called Paroksha, because it can only be known by Anumana, by some seeing or experiencing the other's actions. It can be experienced, it cannot be seen Pratyaksha, it cannot be seen directly. And whereas the world is seen directly, it is Pratyaksha, in front of our eyes, we can see it, we can smell it, we can listen to it, we can, touch it, feel it, all this. And that's why by Indriyas, and that's why world is called Pratyaksha Pramana. Maya can only be known by the Paroksha Pramana. But Bhagavan is talking about some third aspect beyond the Kshara and the Akshara Purusha. Bhagavan says that there is this third type of Purusha, which is also called the Uttama Purusha. He says, Uttama Purushastvanyaha Paramatmetyudahyutaha Yo Lokatrayama Vishya Vibhartavyaya Ishwaraha. Bhagavan says this Uttama Purusha to Anya. This is a different from all the Kshara, Akshara. It is completely separate. It is completely different, completely Vilakshana. And this is the highest self. This is the Uttama Purusha, the best self or the highest self. Bhagavan says Paramatma iti udayutaha, means this is which is known as, which can be known as Paramatma. This is the Uttama Purusha, Bhagavan says. And this Yaha Lokatrayam Avishya, which pervades all the three lokas. It is everywhere. Bhagavan says this Uttama Purusha Vibharti Avyaya Ishwaraha, and nurtures all the three lokas as the Lord of the three lokas. And this is the Avyaya. This is unchanging, indestructible Avyaya. So obviously Bhagavan is trying to tell us that this Uttama Purusha is something which is the Nirgun Nirakar Tattva, which pervades all the three lokas, which nurtures all the three lokas, which is the Adhishtan, the Brahma, and which is Avyaya, which is unchanging, which remains indestructible. So this Uttama Purusha is the highest self. Bhagavan says it can also be known as Paramatma, as Bhagavan himself has said. In Vedanta, it is also called the Chaitanya. It is a consciousness. It can be translated into English. Brahma is the name for the universal Sarvavayapaka Atma or Chaitanya. So Atma is nothing but Chaitanya, but Atma is seen as from an individual perspective, we call it Atma. From a Vyashti level, we call it Atma. But when we see it from the Sarvavyapaka or the Samashti level, from the universal perspective, where it is Sarvavyapaka, it is all pervading, then this Chaitanya is called Brahma. So essentially, all these are the same words, cannot be perceived by the senses. This Chaitanya, Tattva, Atma cannot be seen, cannot be listened to, cannot be felt, cannot be touched. It is beyond the senses. So that's why it cannot be known by the Pratyaksha Pramana. It cannot be perceived even by the inference or the Anuman Pramana. Neither it is Paroksha, there is no Paroksha Jnana, but it can only be perceived by directly experiencing by our own self. And that's why this perception or this understanding or this knowledge is called the Aparoksha Jnana. And in our Shastras, there are three types of Jnana. The Pratyaksha one, which is we can see it with our Pratyaksha Pramana, that is our Indriya. All the five Jnanendriyas, Shotra, Chakshu, Rasana, Ghrana, all these. And Anumana Pramana is something like, say for example, if we see a smoke and we make an Anumana inference that there is some fire, this is called a Paroksha Gnan, which is by the Anumana Pramana. Whereas Atma Tattva cannot be understood by neither the Pratyaksha Pramana nor the Paroksha Pramana. It is not through any of these 5 or 6 Pramanas that are there in the Vedanta. It is only by Aparoksha Pramana it can be seen or it can be experienced. It is said that Vedanta Vakya, by Shravana also we can understand the Atma Tattva. So Shravana is considered to be one of the ways we can understand this Jnana. No one can deny our own existence. We can never say that I am not present. I am always there. I feel it myself. Even in darkness, I know that I am there. Even while I am sleeping, I know that I am there, because when I wake up, I say I had a wonderful sleep. That knowledge was there, and that's why I am always there. And this I is my own existence, which is aparoksha. It can directly be experienced by only myself, because this is my own swarupa. It is my Atma Swarupa. And Uttama, when Bhagavan says Uttama, says much higher than the Kshara and the Akshara Purusha. Kshara Purusha can be seen by the Pratyaksha Pramana, Akshara Purusha by the Paroksha Pramana, but the Uttama Purusha can only be directly experienced by the Aparoksha Pramana or the Aparoksha Jnana. And Bhagavan says Uttama. Why it is Uttama? Why is it the best? Because it is omnipresent, it is Sarva Vyapaka, this Tattva, but it is still a Sangha. It does not get attached to all these guna and the Maya and all this. It remains Asanga, and that is our own final goal, that we have to understand our own. It is part of our own Atma Swarupa, and this is the truth or the Satya that Vedanta and Upanishads exposes, reveals, and it is for us to understand this. How we can understand this? For this we need a guru in our life. We need the Shastra. We need continuous understanding, continuously understanding this Atma Tattva, feeling it, and then assimilating it in our life. In the next shloka, Bhagavan talks about this same Uttama Purusha. Says, Yasmat Ksharamati Toham Aksharadapi Chottamaha Atosmi Loke Vedecha Prathita Purushottamaha. Bhagavan says, Yasmat Aham Aksharam Atitaha. Because I am different from this Kshara Purusha, he says, and Aksharatapicha Uttamaha, and I am also higher from these Akshara Purusha, Uttamaha Purusha. He says, Ataha, Lokecha Vedecha, therefore in the world, in all these three lokas and in the Vedas, Asmi Prathitaha Purushottamaha. Bhagavan says, I am known as Purushottamaha. Bhagavan gives his own self-introduction. He says, I am Purushottama. This Uttama Purusha that I have been talking about, which is beyond the Kshara, Akshara, is none other than myself. And this is called Purushottama. Bhagavan is telling us very clearly that this Nirguna Tattva, the Adhisthana Tattva, the Paramatma Tattva, the Brahma Chaitanya Tattva, that is the Adhisthana of all, it is nothing but this Purushottama. I am, Krishna is saying, I am this Purushottama here. So let us understand Purushottama, or this Uttama Purusha that Krishna is talking about. Krishna is also known as Purana Purushottama, because Purushottama is the name of the God, Lord, and Bhagavan Krishna is also called, is complete in all respects, whereas Ramji is called the Maryada Purushottama. They are all Purushottama because they are all incarnate of the same Lord, and this is what is the realization of the Krishna. So Purushottama and Uttam Purusha, it's called Uttama Purusha because they are praised by all and one. All the saints, the kings, the wise people, and even the ordinary people, everybody praises them. They know that there is, they should be praised, they should be worshipped, and they have unlimited splendor, Aishwarya. That Aishwarya is complete, it is unlimited, and that's why it's called Bhagavana, called Purushottama. And all the scriptures also, Vedanta and Upanishads tell us that the Paramarthik Swarupa of the Jeeva is nothing but this Purushottama Swarupa, and the entire universe, even the Jagat, is consisting of this Purushottama Swarupa, which we have to understand. In the next shloka, Bhagavan talks about, in the final two shlokas of this Adhyaya, Bhagavan Shri Krishna talks about the ultimate benefit of this knowledge. He says, Yo mamevam sammudho janati purushottamam sasarvavid bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. Bhagavan says, Yaha evam asammudaha, one who is relieved of all the delusions, moha, mudata. So all this is relieved, asammuda, one who is devoid of all this moha. Bhagavan says, Mam janati purushottamam, and he is the person, he or she is the person who knows me as Purushottama. So Bhagavan says this moha has to go away. Only then we can see the reality. Without that, we cannot see this reality, Purushottama. We cannot see this. And what happens to that person? That person becomes Saha. That person becomes Sarvavita. Sarvavita means that person knows everything. Our Upanishads tell us that this is Paramatma Tattva or Purushottama Tattva is the one which is to be known. Once we know that, nothing else remains to be known. It is called the Paravidya. And the meaning of the word Sarvavita is different from Sarvagna. Sarvagna is also all knower. But Sarvagna is a word used for Bhagavan. Because Bhagavan knows everything, all the past, present, future of all the beings at one point of time. Not Kramati, but at one point of time, Bhagavan knows everything, and that's why Bhagavan is called Sarvagna. Jeev is called Alpagna. Is a limited knowledge. Only we can see only of our own this life. We cannot see our past life. We cannot see our future life. We can't see what karma we have done in the past life. All these we cannot see. But Sarvavita means that whatever is worth knowing, we have known. So everything that is worth knowing, through which we have known, we don't need to understand more about the world, the real existence, the knowledge of the truth or the reality behind the existence we have known. And what does this person do? Bhagavan says, Bhajati Mam Sarva Bhavena Bharata. Bharata is a address to Arjuna. Oh Arjuna. And this person is Bhajati Mam. He is devoted to me Sarva Bhavena, with all his mind and intellect, because he's Sarvatra, he is able to see the Ishvara Darshana, and that's why he doesn't do anything but worships the Lord everywhere, wherever he sees, wherever Drashti goes, wherever his vision goes, he's seeing the Lord everywhere. So Asammudaha, one who is relieved of delusion or moh, is a person whose Viveka has become Jagrat. Jagrat means ignited. He has ignited his discriminative intellect. He knows what is the truth, what is the reality, what is not. He knows what is the eternal thing, what is the changing thing. All these Viveka has happened, and through the Shastra, this Viveka, through Guruji, this Viveka has happened, and it's very clear now. And his Moha Mudta that happens in all of us, Jeeva, is mainly because of Guruji tells us two things. One is the Ahamkara, the I-ness. And the reason for this I-ness, the base was called, the second reason is Mamakara, mindness. I always feel that this is my body, this is my mind, this is my intellect, this is mindness, and through which, because of this, I identify with this body, I identify with this mind, and feel that I am the person who knows everything, I am the one who has a good mind, I am the one who is steady, I am the one who is a knower. So we identify ourselves, and all this causes this delusion. And Bhagavan clearly tells us that this ahamkar and mamakar in all the objects of this world, the persons of this world, our near and dear ones, our relationships, and all our vyavahara, our behavior, our dealings with the interactions with the people in this world. And here, if there is vivek is lost, then the mind becomes clouded, it develops moha, and this is the root cause of bondage in this samsara chakra. So that is what Bhagavana and the Guruji tells us, that there are three solutions to relieve ourselves from all these asakti, which Bhagavan is talking how asanga sastrena dradena chitva, how we have to remove this samsara chakra. One is the dosha darshana. So dosha darshana means having complete vision. It's not just seeing the dosha in the objects or in the vishaya, in the persons, but it is to see the complete vision. So we just don't see the guna all the time, because when there is asakti, we tend to see only the guna, what we like, what we enjoy, what we do bhoga. These are the only things, the transient happiness that we see, but we don't see the other long-term effects, the long-term dukkha, or the problems that can happen when we acquire these kind of possessions or these kind of objects. So the complete vision, samagra drashti darshana, is what Bhagavan tells us, Guruji tells us. The second is bhakti. Bhakti is also very powerful. Bhagavad Bhakti is a very powerful means to take us from the attachments of this world, because once we attach to the God, naturally all these attachments of the world will gradually it will be relieved from us. And the third is satsanga. Satsanga is also a very powerful tool. We have to listen, shravana of Vedanta Vakyas from the Guruji, try to understand them, manana, and then we have to apply, assimilate and apply in our life. And this cannot happen just by understanding once or just knowing once, because we need to keep repeatedly doing this constantly, abhyasa, because these viparit sanskara, the viparyaya, are so strong in our mind. But this, what Vedanta tells us, is completely different, and that's why we have to keep repeating this, understanding this again and again. So what Vedanta does is our drashti parivartana. It changes our vision. Essentially, what we see, we believe is the reality. Vedanta tells us that what you see is not the reality. It's a myth, but what is reality is not seen. So this is a completely different vision. And that's why we have to, trying to see this reality which cannot be seen is something that we have to make a lot of efforts and understanding. Right? So initially what Vedanta does is it does Vyatireka Drashti. So it starts doing neti, no, not this. This is not the reality. No, you are identified with your body. No, this is not the reality, not the mind, not the prana, not these energies that you have, not the, the Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha, not this happiness. You are not this, not this, not this, not the Sthul Sharira, not the Sukshma Sharira, not the Karan Sharira. So Avasthratraya Viveka, Pancha Kosha Viveka, all these Vedanta does to take us, removing all our layers, which are myths, which are our misconceptions, which we have already presumed that I am this. And this we have to remove till, and this is the part of the sadhana, till we finally reach to that Anvay Drashti, where we understand the final goal, the Sadhya Sarvatra Ishvara Darshana. Vedanta or Upanishada can only do Nirdesha, because it cannot be shown by any of these indriyas or any of these knowledge, but it will tell us finally that we have to understand that Sarvatra there is Ishvara. With this we have to do Darshana. So Sarvatra Ishvara Darshan is all, and God is not different, but all is God. Everything is one. There is Advitiya Tattva which manifests itself in all the different beings. That is the Jnana of the Adhisthana Brahma, which is the foundation of everything. And the Swarupa is Sat, Chit and the Anand Swarupa. And this is nothing but the Purushottama form or the Swarupa of the Lord that Bhagavan is talking about here. Sarvatra we have to see this Purushottama Swarupa of the Lord. And the final shloka, Bhagavan talks about the same benefit of knowing this Purushottama Swarupa of the Lord. He says, Iti guhyatamam shastram idam uktam maya naga etad buddhva buddhiman syat rutakrutyascha bharata. So Bhagavan is now telling Arjuna, who Anaga? Anaga means Arjuna, you are devoid of all the sins, you are very pure at heart, because you have been a devotee, you have come to my shelter. Shishyaste ham shadimam tvam prapannam, and you have heard all this very, very guhyatamam shastram. Bhagavan is saying, iti, this is the highest secret, the Atma Gnana that I am telling you, this Gnana of the Purushottama Swarupa of the Lord. And this Gnana is the highest secret, the guhyatamam shastram. I am telling you, Arjuna, idam uktam maya. Bhagavan says, which has been told to you by none other than my own self. I am the one who is telling you. Swayam Bhagavan Khud is telling Arjuna about this knowledge. He says, oh Bharata, Bharata is a scion of the Bharata dynasty. He's been born in a very nice family. Bhagavan is telling him, what is the benefit of knowing this knowledge? He says, Etad buddhva buddhiman syat. One who knows this gnana, this Atma Gnana, which I am telling you, which is the highest secret. Bhagavan says, he is the person who is buddhiman syat. Means he is indeed real intelligent. We think that we are very intelligent because we have some IQ, or we know something, or we have been learned, or we have been educated, or got some degrees. But Bhagavan vision is very different. He says only one who has understood this Atma Gnana is Buddhiman, because that is the real use of the Buddhi according to the Lord. And that is why Bhagavan has given us this intellect, and the real use of intellect to understand this Sukshma Tattva, this Atma Gnana. That is what is the vision of the Lord. And Bhagavan says, Krutakrutyascha. Krutakrutya means he or she person, this person feels complete, paripurna in all respects, does not have any ambitions, expectations, appreciation. All these is lost, nirapeksha, and paripurna is like fulfilled, completely fulfilled, has attained the goal of his or her own life. And that's why this person feels completely krutakrutya, and he is a buddhiman. So this is what Bhagavan says, this is what is the goal of our life, to understand this Purushottama Shastra. And this can only be taught to us by the secret teachings of the Veda, which is called the Guhya Shastra. There are some very, very hidden secrets that are there in the Veda. As we all know, Veda consists of the Karma Kanda, the initial part, which is almost consisting of 80% of the Vedas is Karma Kanda. This karma, if you do, this karma phala you will get. If this you do this type of karma, this karma phala will we get. And what are the karmas which we should not do? Nishitta karma. What are the ones that should be done? how we should do our karma. So all this karma, karma phala, karma yagna, all these are there in the karma kanda part, which consists of 80% of the Vedas. So these are called the Guhya Shastra. But the next part is the Upasana Kanda, which is the Guhya Tara. It is even more secret, which is consisting of the bhakti or the upasanas, all different kinds of upasanas. Several of them are there in the Vedas. Almost 16% of the Vedas consisting of Upasana Kanda. Whereas the Guhyatam is the most secret part of the Veda, is the Jnana Kanda, the knowledge part of the Veda, which is also called the Vedanta or the Upanishada. And this consists of only 4% of the Vedas. But this is the essence of the Veda, because all this karma and upasana is to make our mind pure, so that we become eligible to understand this Jnana that Vedas talk about in the Upanishada and the Vedanta. It's not that the Jnana part is not there in the Vedas. The Jnana Vedas consist of a lot of Jnana part, and that is ultimately the only way we can achieve moksha. Not by karma, not by bhakti. We can achieve this freedom, this complete independence, this freedom from all our limitations. That is the moksha, only by this understanding this Jnana, and that is what is revealed in the Vedanta and the Upanishads, which consist of only 4% of the part of the Vedas. But this is the Guhyatamam Shastra, which Bhagavan is talking about in this final shloka of the 15th Adhyaya, which is the Purushottama Yoga. So we come to the end of this session. Let us summarize this session. Bhagavan starts with talking about how Jeeva is bound to the samsara by the 5 Jnanendriyas and the mana, and how the Vishayan Upasevate, how through which we see this, all these, we are bound to this samsara, and how we can be freed from this in all our roles, different roles. If I can see myself as the Sakshi Swarupa, where the Guna Guneshu Vartanta, and that Sakshi saying above from the Trigunatita Swarupa, or remaining above the gunas, rising above the gunas, we can be freed from this samsara bandhana. And why everyone is not able to see this truth? Bhagavan says, because everybody does not do adequate efforts. Yatantaha. Prayatna is the most important. Yatanta is where sadhana comes into being. We have to try our best. And Bhagavan says, Akritatmana and Achetasa. Even in spite of them, they do efforts, but they are not able to see this reality. But because their mind, their intellect is not sukshma, it is not pure, it is not shuddha, and they have a wavering mind, and they are not aware, they don't have viveka, so that's why they are not able to see this truth. Then Bhagavan describes his own self. He says, the luminance of the sun, moon and the fire is because of Matta Eva, it is all because of me. And we have to start seeing somewhere, Bhagavan starts showing his vibhutis. He says, Gama Vishyacha Bhutani, I enter the earth and I dharayami with my ojasa, with my tej, I dharan, matlab I nurture this earth. And then he says, I am the one what you eat, I am the one who digests, aham vaishwanaro bhutva. And then he continues his vibhuti darshana, says, I am sarvatra, sarvasya chaham viridhi, sannivishtaha, I am there sitting, residing in your heart, in the heart of all the beings, Bhagavana says. And then it describes 2 types of universe or world, Kshara, Akshara, and says the 3rd type, which is completely different, is the foundation of everything, which is called the Uttama Purusha, and which is nothing but, Bhagavan says, people, Atha Loke Cha Vede Cha, they called me Asmi Pratita Purushottamaha, I am called Purushottama. And then he shows the ultimate benefit of knowing this knowledge. This is a real intellect, this is a person who is real Buddhiman, who understands this, and he becomes completely Paripurna, fulfilled, Krutakutyascha Bharata. With this, we come to the end of the 15th Adhyaya. Om Tat Sata Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shree Krishna Arjuna Samvade Purushottama Yogo Nama Panchadashodhyayaha Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Braja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Ishyami Ma Shuchaha Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parah Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Om Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.